And Noah fathered three sons. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Noah fathered three sons means the three kinds of theology symbolized by Shem, Ham, and Japheth would rise out of the church. The meaning of Noah fathered three sons as the fact that three kinds of theology would rise out of the church can be seen from all the earlier statements that names stand purely as symbols for various churches, or to put it another way, various theologies. Purely.
Surely.
Purely.
Surely.
Purely. And the same applies here. But the sole reason the names come up here is the context or the connection with what preceded, that the Lord foresaw that people whose minds worked this way would be able to receive a gift for loving others, although they would still give birth to three different kinds of theology. These theologies will be discussed below, where Shem, Ham, and Japheth are treated of the Lord and His divine mercy willing. Are treated of.
Treated.
Treated. What does it mean? Are treated of. It's like correspond to. In order to understand why Noah was just and upright, he walked with God, and in the present verse, he fathered three sons. All take the past tense, even though they look to future events. Future events. How to pronounce? Events. To future events, you need to know that the nature of the inner meaning makes the tense irrelevant. Like relevant and not relevant, yeah.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. The original language suits this quality, since sometimes one and the same word in it can be understood in any tense. Likewise, the words are not divided up. This exposes the inner content to clearer view. The language acquires its flexibility from the inner meaning, which is more richly layered than anyone could ever believe, and this is why it does not allow dense or partitioning to place restrictions on it. Partitioning.
Partitioning.
Partition. It's like partition. Not allow tense or partitioning to place restrictions on it. Restrictions.
Restrictions.
Restrictions. It's like limiter. Limitation, ban. To place restrictions on it. Genesis 6:11. Do you want to read maybe? Genesis 6:11.
Can I read?
And yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Genesis 6:11. And the land was corrupt before God, and the land was full of violence. The land symbolized the tribe of people mentioned earlier. It is described as corrupt because of the dreadful delusions, and as full of violence because of their unclean desires. The name God is used from here to the end of the chapter because there was now no church. The symbolism of the land as the tribe of people mentioned earlier is established by places above that show the symbolism of the land and the ground. Land is a term that
your microphone sounds like you are underground, underwater. Sorry, like you are underwater.
okay, let me fix it. Sorry. Let me fix it first.
Mhm. Maybe it's far from you. Not sure. Mhm. Land is a term that surfaces repeatedly in the words where it means an area such as the land of Canaan, in which the Lord's true church exists. It also means an area such as the land of Egypt or another non-Jewish nation in which the church does not exist. Accordingly, it stands for the race of people living there, and since it stands for the race, it also stands for every member of the race there. An expression such as the land of Canaan uses the term land for a heavenly love. The lands of non-Jewish nations are so called on account of foul loves. But ground is used in reference to faith, which is planted as a seed. As I showed, the land means the area surrounding the ground, and the ground means the area surrounding a field. Just as love is what contains faith, and faith is what contains the religious knowledge that is planted. The use of land in the current verse implies a race of tribe in which every element of heavenly love and of the church died away. Now a term applies in a given context can be determined from the subject under discussion. The fact that the land is described as corrupt or destroyed because of people's dreadful delusions and full of violence because of their unclean desires, I think. Delusions.
Delusions.
It's like misconception, illusion, crazy idea. Delusion is it's like illusion, yeah, but it's like crazy idea. Because of their unclean desires can be seen from the symbolism of the two terms corruption and violence. The word never confuses the two, but consistently applies whatever term expresses the precise idea involved. The precise idea.
Precise.
Precise like clear. This is done with a care so great that the word choices themselves instantly reveal the inner message. The word choices just mean.
Choices.
It's like selects, choices. Themselves instantly reveal the inner message. Such is the case with corruption and violence here. Corruption describes the traits of an intellect stripped bare, while violence describes the traits of a will laid waste. So corruption has to do with self-deception and violence with desire. The relationship of corruption or to delusions can be seen in Isaiah. They will not do evil or practice corruption anywhere on my holy mountain, because the earth will be full of knowledge from Jehovah. The doing of evil is associated with the evil or cravings, while the practicing of corruption is associated with the intellect or persuasive persuasive lies. Mhm.
persuasive,
Persuasive. Persuasive lies. In the same author, doomed to a sinning nation, to a people weighed down with wickedness, to the seat of evildoers, to mhm, to children who corrupt. Here, as elsewhere, the non-Jewish nations and the seed of evildoers stand for evil, which is a matter of will or desire, while the people and the children who corrupt stand for falsities, which are a matter of intellect or self-deception. In Ezekiel, more corrupt are you than they in all your ways. Corruption in this verse has to do with the things we understand, reason over, or think about, since way is a word symbolizing truth in David. They did a corrupt thing, and they made a heinous. What is this? Heinous,
heinous,
like disgusting, terrible. A heinous thing of their work. The corrupt thing stands for applied delusions, and the heinous thing for unclean longings, which lay within their work or from which it sprang. In Daniel, after 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off, and he will have nothing, and the people of a leader yet to come will corrupt the city and the sanctuary, and its end will come in a flood. Again, the practicing of corruption or destruction stands for persuasive lies, which are described as a flood. The fact that the land is described as full of violence because of unclean desires, especially the desires stemming from self-love or fragrant arrogance, can also be seen from the word. Violence is the name for the damage people inflict on holy things when they profane them. That is what these pre-flood people did when they submerged doctrinal concepts in cravings of every kind. In Ezekiel, for example, I will turn my face from them, and they will profane my hiding hiding place. Maybe hiding. Yeah, my hiding place, I think. Hidden with 2D. It's hiding. Hiding
hiding,
place. Shelter. And if burglars maybe.
burglars,
Burglars, burglars, burglars,
burglars,
burglars. And if burglars enter it, they will profane it. Make a chain, because the land is full of judgment on. Chain. What is chain? In
chain,
chain, like sequence. Make a chain. Yeah, maybe it's chain. Make a chain because the land is full of judgment on crimes of blood and the city is full of violence. This describes the violent, identifying them as the kind of people depicted. In the same author, they will eat their bread with anxiety and drink their water in desolation, so that the land of Jerusalem may be stripped of its abundance on account of the violence of all those living in it. The bread they will eat with anxiety is heavenly food, and the water they will drink in desolation is spiritual drink, both of which they treated violently, that is profaned. In Isaiah, their webs will not be for clothing, and they will not be dressed in their works. Their works are works of wickedness, and the perpetra- perpetration perpetration of violence is in the palms of their hands. Perpetration.
Perpetration.
It's like offense, crime like this. Perpetration.
Perpetration.
Perpetration. The webs and clothes. The webs and clothes refer to objects of mental activity or of thought, the wickedness and violence to product of the will of or of works. In Jehovah, may they each be turned from their evil away and from the violence that is in the palms of their hands. The evil way refers to falsities in the intellect and the violence to evil in the will. In Jeremiah, within a year will come Ruma and violence in the land. Ruma stands for properties of the intellect, violence for those in the will. In Isaiah, no violence has he done, and no deceit is in his mouth. Violence has to do with traits of the will, deceit in the mouth with those of the intellect. The current passage is about circumstances in which there is no church. This can be seen from the fact that from here on the present chapter speaks of God, whereas in the first part it spoke of Jehovah. When a church exists, the text uses the name God. But when a church does not exist, it uses Jehovah. It's interesting. When no church exists, and the text uses the name God. Yeah, but when a church does exist, it uses Jehovah. In Genesis, yeah, because I think it's like God is like a title, but Jehovah is like a name. In Genesis 1, for instance, where there was no church, it said God. But later, when a church did exist, it said Jehovah God. Jehovah is an extremely sacred name used nowhere else but in the church. It's like proper name. Yeah. This is not true of God, however, since every nation had its gods, and so the name God is not as sacred. No one was allowed to mention Jehovah without a knowledge of the true faith, but anyone could speak of God. Who is next?
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah. Now it's sounding good. Yeah.
Okay.
Am I? Mhm.
Genesis 6:12. And God saw the land and found it was corrupt, because all flesh had made their way corrupt on their earth. God saw the land means that God understood humankind. It was corrupt means that they was mitigated falsity, because all flesh had made their way corrupt on the earth means that humankind's preoccupations with the bodily level had destroyed all comprehension of truth. Anyone can see that God saw the land means that God understood uh, humankind. God, after all, who knows absolutely everything from eternity, has no need to look to see whether we are corrupt. Seeing is a human activity, and consequently, as was noted at verse 6 and elsewhere, the passage is what
Speaking.
Speaking from a human point of view. In fact, the word goes so far as to say that God uses eyes to see. The meaning of because all flesh had made their way corrupt on the earth as the fact that humankind's preoccupation with the bodily level destroyed or comprehension of truth. Truth is established by the symbolism of flesh. At verse 3 above, flesh was described as symbolizing every person in general and one with a bodily focus in particular, or in other words, the whole bodily re, realm.
Realm.
How to say? Sorry?
Realm. Realm.
Realm.
Mhm.
Realm.
Realm. Okay.
Realm.
It's like kingdom, state, field,
Oh,
sphere,
okay.
kingdom.
Realm. Okay. A way symbolize the comprehension of truth or truth itself. The use of way or path to describe a comprehension of truth or truth itself can be gathered from passages quote in various places above.
Particular. I forgot this word. Particular.
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 Like
Yeah,
specific.
particular. Mm-mm.
Specials. Mhm.
The following passages also illustrate the connection in Moses. Jehovah said, "Get up, go down quickly from here, because your people have corrupted themselves. They have suddenly turned back from the way that I commanded them. They have made themselves a cast image." In this passage, it is commandment which are truth. They were abandoned in Jeremiah, whose eyes are open to all the ways of the sons of humankind, to reward a man according to his way and according to the fruit of his deeds. These ways are a life spent obeying what has been commanded, and the fruit of a person's deed is a life inspired by charity. So a way relates to truth, truth being contained in the things commanded and required of us. A son of humankind and a man carry the same connotations as shown before. These symbols have the same meaning in Jeremiah 7:3 and yeah,
In Hosea.
in Hosea. I will bring on them the consequences of their ways, and their deeds will I return on them. In
Zechariah.
Zechariah. Okay, in
Zechariah.
Zechariah,
Maybe Zechariah.
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 Zechariah. Mhm.
Okay,
Zechariah.
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 in Zechariah, turn back from your evil ways and your evil deeds, as Jehovah Sabbath taught to do to us according to our ways and according to our deeds. The meaning here is similar to that in the earlier passages. Thought,
Though. No.
though
Mhm.
turn around since the ways and deeds are evil in Jeremiah. I will give them
Je-
one heart. Yeah,
Jeremiah. Jeremiah. I.
Jeremiah. Okay, I will give them one heart and one way. A heart stands for goodness, and a way for truth in David. Make me understand the way of your requirements. Remove the way of falsehood from me, and favor me with your law. I have chosen the way of truth. I will run the way of your commandments. The way of the divine requirements and commandments is being referred to as the way of truth, and the opposite as the way of falsehood in the same author. Make your ways known to me. Jehovah, teach me your path. Lead the way, lead the way for me in your truth and teach me. Again, the way clearly stands for truth in Isaiah. With whom has Jehovah talent counsel, and who has instructed him and taught him the path of judgment and taught him knowledge and made the way of understanding known to him. Obviously, the way stands for a comprehension of truth in Jeremiah. This is what Jehovah has said. Stand on the footways and see, and ask about the anxious path, which way is the good one, and go on it. Once again, the way stands for a comprehension of truth in Isaiah. I will lead the blind on a way they have not known. In path they have not known, I will lead them. Words used to describe truth include way, path, road, street, and land because these lead to truth. Jeremiah contains an example. They caused them to stumble on their way at the ancient roads to go on the path on a way that was no pave. Likewise in Judges. In the day of uh, Jael, in the day of Jael,
Maybe
the yeah,
Jail.
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 jail,
Jail.
Jail. Like this.
jail. Okay, the roads disappear, and those going on the path went by crook roads. The lands in Israel disappear. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to read? Maybe next. Okay. I will finish this, and after it will be actually 5 pages. Mhm. The inner meaning here is that all people everywhere in the land, in the church territory, had made their way corrupt, so that they did not comprehend truth, since all of them had turned their attention to the bodily plane. This included not only those mentioned in the last verse, but also those referred to as Noah, specifically discussed both here and in the next verse. Before being reborn, they had the same character as the others. These details come first because the story of their rebirth waits till later. And since little of the church remained, the name God rather than Jehovah is now being used. The present verse signals signals signals, yeah.
Signals.
Signals the fact that nothing true had survived, and the next that nothing good had. The only truth and goodness left was the remnant was possessed by the people called Noah, because without a remnant, regeneration is impossible. The doctrinal concepts that they knew about also survived. There was no comprehension of truth, however, because this is out of the question where no will to do good exists. When will is absent, absent, I think. What is absent?
Absent.
Ah, absent. Yeah, absent. It's like lack. Lack, for example, lack of knowledge. It's like without. Absent. Thank you. When will is absent, so too is intellect, and the better or worse the will is, the better or worse the intellect. The earliest people had a will to do good because they loved the Lord, and from this they had a comprehension of truth. This ability to comprehend, though, was completely destroyed along with the will. A glimmering of truth on the rational plane and a trace of goodness on the earthly plane did remain to the people called Noah, and for this reason they were capable of rebirth. Who is next?
Mm, I read?
Go ahead. Nice to see you here.
No. Okay. Genesis 6:13. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, since the land is filled with violence because of them, and indeed I am destroying them together with the earth. God said means that is how it was. The end of all flesh has come before me means that the human race could not avoid destruction. Since the land is filled with violence means that there was no longer any will any will to do good. Indeed, I will destroy them together with the earth. Means that the human race would meet its end when the church died. The meaning of God said as the fact that that is how it was can be seen from this. In Jehovah, there is only one that there is only what is. The meaning of the end of all flesh has come before me as the fact that the human race could not avoid destruction can be seen from the words themselves. It is also established by the symbolism of flesh, as all people in general and body originate. No. What's it? Body
Sorry.
oriented.
Oriented. Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Body oriented ones in particular, as detailed earlier. The meaning of the land is filled with violence, as the fact that there was no longer any will to do go good can be seen from the statements and evidence concerning the symbolism of violence offered above at verse 11. The last verse predicted that the comprehension of truth would be destroyed in the people of the church. And this verse predicts that the will to do good would be destroyed. The fact of the matter is that no matter that no one has any understanding of truth or will to do good, not even the people of the earliest church had them. When people develop a heavenly nature, they seem to have a will to do good and an understanding of truth. But but the capability is all the Lord's, as they themselves see, acknowledge, and perceive. The same holds true for angels. So entirely is this the case that anyone who fails to see, acknowledge, and perceive the truth of it utterly lacks any comprehension of truth or will to do good. The independent self of every human being and every angel, even the most heavenly, is mere falsity and evil. As people know, the heavens are not pure in the Lord's sight, and all good and all truth belong to Him alone. If a person or an angel can be perfected, then by the Lord's divine mercy, that individual is perfected and receives what
Hmm. How did you say this word?
mere
Mia. Mm-hmm. Mia.
mere,
Mm-hmm. Mia. Like this, Mia.
what is it, simple?
And Mia, yeah, it's like Mia man, like it's like simple, ordinary. For example, you are a mere man, may makes yourself equal with God, like this. Mere man.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
make yourself. You are mere man. Make yourself equal with God, like this. Mm. Receives what seems.
What seems to be an understanding of truth and a will to do good, but what she or he has in only an apparent possession. All people can be perfected and so receive this gift of the Lord's mercy. The way they have lived their lives in view of the evil they have inherited from their parents determines the shape in which mercy comes to them. It is
Tremendously.
tremendously,
tremendously,
tremendous,
Tremendously. It's like extremely, amazingly,
terribly,
tremendous,
tre-
tremendously, tremendously.
tremendously.
tremendously,
Hmm.
Difficult to explain comprehensively what an understanding of truth and a will to do good are in the strict sense. The reason for the difficulty is that we consider every thought passing through our minds to be part of our intellect, since that is the name we give it, and every desire entering our heart to be part of our will, since that is the name we give it. What makes a clear explanation even harder is that many people today are also completely unable to tell the difference between activity in the intellect and activity in the will. When they think something, they say they want it. And when they want something, they say they think it. So again, the obstacle is the labels people use. Yet another barrier to comprehension is the fact that only what relates to their body captures people's interest. That is, their lives are exceedingly shallow.
It's obstacle,
Obstacle is like, mm,
obstacle,
yeah, barrier.
barrier, barrier,
Difficulty.
difficulty, obstacle, and shallow, shallow.
shallow,
It's like small, empty, dry, thin, shallow.
For all these reasons, people are unaware that each of us has a deeper level inside, and another level deeper than that, and another level that is deepest of all. They do not see that our bodily urges and sense impressions from the outermost surface. Our passions and memorized knowledge, a deeper layer, our loves and rational thoughts, a still deeper layer, and a will to do good and a comprehension of truth, the deepest. These levels are differentiated from one another with the greatest possible clarity. Body centered people, however, jumble them all together into an undifferentiated whole. This is the source of the belief that when our physical part dies, everything else must too, even though it is a death that we first start to live. Indeed, the new life comes to us by way of our inner levels, passing through each level in order. If our inner dimensions
What is jumble?
jumbles,
Ju-
mix, is it?
Mix, yeah, mix. Confuse, mix, mess, chaotic. In this sense, body-centered people, however, jumble them. Yeah, it's like mix in this sense.
Were not clearly distinguished in this way, and if they did not lie one within the other, in the next life we could never become spirits, never become angelic spirits, never become angels. These three groups are differentiated in the same way as the inner levels, which create the plainest demarcation possible among the three heavens. This explanation casts a little light on what a comprehension of truth and a will to do good are.
Demarcation.
Demarcation.
It's about mark, I think. Yeah. Demarcation.
Demarcation.
It's about
Separation.
borders. Yeah,
Separ-
this word is about borders. Demarcation line. Like borders between countries, demarcated
mhm.
with lines. And descend like separation to demarcation. Will to the good are.
Properly speaking, and shows that they can be ascribed only to a person whose character is heavenly, or to angels in the third heaven. The things said in this verse and the last symbolize the impending destruction of all comprehension of truth and all will to do good during the cataclysm of the pre flood church among the people who had absorbed
Cataclysm. How to pronounce?
Cataclysm.
Cataclysm. Okay. On the people who had absorbed.
appalling delusions and foul desires in the times before the flood. Such destruction was so complete that not even a faint impression of those faculties remained visible. But among the people referred to as Noah, some traces did last. That remnant was not good enough to reestablish in them any ability to understand or to will, only to present them with truth on the rational plane and good on the earthly plane. A person's character, you see, determines how fully the remnant can operate. These people had enough remaining traces of intellect and will to enable them to be reborn. Self deception did not block or swallow up the Lord's operation through the remnant in them. Delusions, false premises that have been taken root, um, hinder the Lord's operation at every turn. Unless they are eradicated, their possessor can never be reborn. More on this later.
Hinder.
Hinder.
Hinder is like detain, like it's like to bother, like this hinder. Maybe in dictionary, hinder definition in dictionary. Hinder definition: to make a slow or difficult the progress of,
Progress. To
like
hold
to
back.
make the progress slow or difficult. To make
To
slow
hold back.
difficult the progress.
To delay.
Yeah, for example, economic growth hindered by sanctions. Hindered in this sense. Okay, hinder. More on this later.
With the Lord's divine mercy. The meaning of I will destroy them together with the earth as the fact that the human race would meet its end when the church died can be seen from the inclusion of together with the earth in this verse. The earth or land in the broad sense symbolizes love, as already pointed out, and consequently the church heavenly qualities. Here, since no love or any heavenly impulse remained, the earth symbolizes self-love and whatever is hostile to the church heavenly qualities. People were still considered part of the church, though since they held on their religious teachings, as I said, the land or earth means the area surrounding the ground, and the ground means the area surrounding a field, just as love is what contains is it what? What
Contain.
contains yeah,
Mhm.
contains faith and faith is what contains religious knowledge. To expand on the symbolism of the words, I will destroy them together with the earth, as the fact that the human race would meet its end along with the church. If the Lord's church were completely obliterated from the planet, the human race could never survive. Every last person would die. The church resembles the heart, as noted earlier. As long as the heart thrives, so can the surrounding organs and limbs. But as soon as the heart dies, everything else dies too. The Lord's church on earth is like the heart. From it the human race, including people outside the church, receives life. Since no one has the faintest
What is this faintest idea?
Faintest.
Faintest, like weak, quiet, like timid,
feel,
timid,
Timid.
timid, like humble. Faintest, like little, smallest idea, like this, smallest, faintest.
mhm, faintest idea why this is so. I wish to explain. The situation of the Earth's entire population
Thrives.
tr- as the heart
Thrives.
strives.
It's like prosper, flourish. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because he says like the church resembles
The
the
heart
heart,
has no the
because
Resembles.
yeah, resembles. It's like remind, assimilate. Maybe this word is better. Assimilate,
Assimilate.
assimilate the heart. But as soon it's interesting. But as soon as the heart dies, everything else dies too. Yeah.
Mhm.
The situation of the Earth's entire population.
Resembles that of the human body with all its parts. In this body, the church plays the role of the heart. If there were no church supplying the heart's place, a church with which the Lord could be united by means of heaven and the world of spirits, a break would occur. And if there were a break between the human race and the Lord, we would be annihilated. immediately. For this reason, a church has always existed. Ever since the first moment of humanity's creation, even when the church has begun to die out, it has always remained alive in a few people. The Lord came into the world for the same reason. Had divine mercy not prompted him to come, the whole human race on this planet would have been destroyed, because at that time the church had reached its last stages and hardly any goodness or truth was left.
Prompted.
Prompted.
Prompted like cost. Dictated, cost, induced. Mhm.
Because we humans, regarded in ourselves, are much lower than animals. We have no chance at survival unless we are intimately connected with the Lord through heaven and the world of spirits. Left on our own, we would plunge headlong into destroying ourselves and everyone else, because the ruination of ourselves and everyone else is all we long for. Our proper code of life is to love one another as we love ourselves. But what we actually do these days is to love ourselves more than others and thus hate everyone else. Now, with unreasoning animals, the case is totally different. Their proper code is the one they live by. And so they live in true harmony with their destiny. We humans, though, live
Thorough.
exact.
It's like this word is like sorrow
Oh, sorry.
in
Yeah, thorough.
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 Yeah.
Thorough.
Sorry.
Thorough. Like careful, detailed, comprehensive.
Live in sorrow, harmony with their destiny. We humans thought live exactly opposite to the pattern ordained for us. So if the Lord did not take pity on us, if he did not bind us to him through angels, we could not possibly survive a single moment. Of this fact, humanity is unaware.
hmm Thank you. Who is next? Maybe. Mhm. It's me. Genesis 6:14. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. You must make compartments in the ark, and you must tar it inside and out with tar. The ark symbolizes a member of this church. The gopher wood symbolizes such a person's ardent cravings. Ardent.
Ardent.
Ardent like hot. Zealous. Zealous.
Zealous.
Zealous. Hot. Person's ardent cravings. The compartments symbolize a person's two sides, that of will and that of intellect. Charring it inside and out symbolizes being preserved from a flood of desires. A flood of desires. The symbolism of the ark as a member of this church, the church called Noah, can be seen fairly clearly from its description in subsequent verses. It can also be it can also be seen from the fact that the Lord's word concerns itself throughout with spiritual and heavenly subjects. To put it another way, his word is spiritually and heavenly. If the ark, with its specifications of tarring, yeah, it's like tar, yeah,
Tarring.
tarring, tar, and pitch. specification with its specifications, maybe. Specifications of Turing, dimension and construction, and the flood had no greater significance than significance.
Significance.
Like importance, meaning, significance. Then the words themselves suggest.
Suggest.
It's like offer, put forward, suggest. Spiritual and heavenly implications would be utterly lacking. The story itself would be everything and would perform no more critical service to humankind than similar literature written by secular authors. But in every literature, then similar literature, how to pronounce?
Literature.
Literature, and we can say literature, and literature. Literature and literature. Written by secular authors, but in every corner of its inmost recesses, recesses, recesses.
Recesses.
It's like cache. No, it's like recesses. Yeah, it's like cache. Yeah, I knew this word, but I forgot. But in every corner of its inmost recesses, the Lord's word contains and unfolds spiritual and heavenly matters, and this leads directly to the conclusion that the ark and everything said of it carries a hidden meaning not yet uncovered. The same holds true elsewhere, as for instance, in respect to the little ark with Moses hidden inside that was laid among the rushes
Hey
by
guys,
the.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I have a serious situation, an emergency. Can you listen to me for 1 sec? Please, I'm begging you.
What is your question?
We had the biggest earthquake in Turkish history, and if you have a Turkish friend, just check on them by calling or texting them.
Today?
Okay.
Really, thousands of people are just dying by the minute. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Thank you.
Yeah, I heard about earthquake, but I didn't understand what she was talking about. By
She's just informing us that there was a earthquake in in Turkey. It's like
Mhm.
that. And then if we have friends or something or know someone in Turkey, then that we should check on them like that. It's just mentioned.
You guys suck my dick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I heard about, she said about friends, but I didn't understand what it
Oh
was
yeah.
about.
It's like if we know someone from that place, we must
Mhm.
check on them. Like
Uh,
yeah,
uh,
you
is
got
it
it.
powerful? Was it powerful earthquake? Yeah, like uh,
I
buildings
didn't. Yeah,
broken.
I didn't
Yeah.
ask where exactly, but maybe I could check out later on the news.
Mm,
Because I know
okay.
someone in Turkey also, so that's why I'm a little startled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. Hope everything's fine with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Utterly lacking
Utterly.
Utterly. But I forgot where was the reading. The word concerns maybe the symbolism of the ark as a member of this church. The church called Noah can be seen fairly clearly from its description in subsequent verses. It can also be seen from the fact that the Lord's word concerns itself throughout with spiritual and heavenly subjects. To put it another way, his word is spiritual and heavenly. If the ark, with its specifications of Tarin and dimensions and constructions, and the flood had no greater significance than the words themselves suggest, spiritual and heavenly implications would be utterly lacking. The story itself would be everything and would perform no more critical service to humankind. Critical.
Critical.
Critical. Utterly lacking.
Utterly.
Utterly. Completely. Extremely. Utterly lacking. No more critical service to humankind than similar literature written by secular authors. But in every corner of its inmost recesses, the Lord's word contains and unfolds spiritual and heavenly matters, and this leads directly to the conclusion that the ark and everything said of it carries a hidden meaning not yet uncovered. The same holds true elsewhere, as for instance in respect to the little ark with Moses hidden inside that was laid among the rushes by the river's edge in Exodus. Exodus. It is even more sublimely.
Sublimely, or something like that.
How to pronounce?
Sublimely.
Sublimely. Sublimely is like lofty.
What are we reading right now? Is it Bible?
Loftily.
This book, it's
Yeah.
about spiritual meaning of the book of Genesis of the Bible. This book
see.
is about book of Genesis, like spiritual meaning.
I see.
It's a book of it's not Bible, but it's Emanuel Swedenborg, the author of this book, Secrets of Heaven, the title.
I see.
And if you want to read, you can read next section in your turn, next verse.
Thank you.
It is even more sublimely true of the sacred ark in the wilderness, built according to the model shown to Moses in Mount Sinai. If it had not represented the Lord and his kingdom in each and every one of its details, it would have functioned as nothing more than a kind of idol or a cult object. Again, take Solomon's temple. It had no innate holiness derived from the gold, silver, cedar, and the stone of its construction, but gained all its holiness from the attributes individually represented by those materials. Likewise here, if Noah's ark with the itemized plan.
Itemized.
Itemized like detailed. Itemized. The itemized plan for building it did not symbolize some hidden characteristic of the church. The word would be not the Lord's word, but a string of words. String.
String.
A string is like line.
It's like a rope or line. Yeah.
In this sense, it's like rope. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is it's rope. Yeah.
But a string. But actually, do you see? Word would not be the Lord's word, but a string of words. If
Then
it is
it's
about
line.
words, it's about lines. Yeah.
Yeah. About words.
String
It's
like line of words. String of words. Because, for example, we can say this is the string of words. Yeah.
Yeah.
For example,
Yeah.
it's because it's one line.
Yeah.
A string of words devoid of life and no different from the work of any secular writer. The logical conclusion is that the ark symbolizes a person belonging to the church called Noah or the church itself. The symbolism of gopher wood as such a person's ardent cravings and of the compartments as that person's two sides, the volitional side and the intellectual side, has so far escaped human awareness. No one, moreover, will be able to see how those meanings are symbolized without first hearing how matters stood in the church called Noah. As I have quite often said, love made it possible for the people of the earliest church to recognize whether something they were hearing formed a part of faith. To put it another way, a will to do good gave them a comprehension of truth, but their descendants inherited also a tendency for desire, which belongs to the will, to gain the upper hand in them. They looked the lessons they had learned about faith and drowned them in desire, and the result was that they became Nephilim. Nephilim. Since
Yes.
the Lord
Yeah.
Nephilim. Mhm.
Yeah.
Since the Lord foresaw then that if the human race continued in this tendency, they would succumb to eternal ruin. Succumb. Succumb, like
Succumb.
mm, indulge. Succumb. They would succumb to eternal ruin. He provided that the will should be split off from the intellect. We would not be shaped by a will to do good as we had been previously. Instead, through an understanding of truth, we would receive a gift for charity, which would resemble a will to do good. Since is the character that was taken on by the new church called Noah, and in consequence, they possessed a nature wholly different from that of the earliest church. Other churches besides this one, other churches besides this one also existed during the same period. One called the Enosh, for example, as described above at Genesis 4:25, 26. There were others too that left behind no such reference or description. Only the church Noah is depicted here because its nature was so unlike the earliest churches and diverged so radically, radically from it. I think it's radically, because it looks like radically, but radically.
Radically.
Yeah, radically. Cardinally.
Cardinally.
Cardinally. Cardinally. Cardinally. Cardinally. Radically. The people of this church had to reform. The side of a person called the intellect had to reform first before it was possible for the other side, referred to as the will, to do the same. So the present passage tells how the contents of the will were separated from those of the intellect and how they were concealed and stored away, so to speak, in order to block off any stimulus to the will. Stimulus, yeah, I think I'm correct.
Stimulus.
Stimulus, stimulus, not stimulus. Stimulus. It's like incentive.
Incentive.
Incentive. Stimulus. To block off any stimulus to the will. Had the appetites of the will been stirred up, it would have destroyed people, as will become clear from later explanations, with the Lord's divine mercy. These two sides, the intellect and will, are as clearly distinguished in us as they could possibly be. Possible or possibly? Yeah. Yeah, it's possibly. Because it's like possible.
Possibly.
Possibly. Perhaps. Could possibly be. I was able to learn this unmistakably from the fact that intellectual information coming from spirits and angels enters the left side of the head or brain, but impulses of the will enter the right side. They affect the face in a similar way. When angelic spirits exert an influence, exert, like affect, manifest, pressure, exert an influence, they waft. What is it? Waft.
Waft.
Waft. It's like blow, wave, poof,
Puff.
puff. They waft in like the gentlest possible breezes, gentlest possible breezes. When evil spirits arrive, they essentially flood the left side of the brain with dreadful hallucinations and delusions, and the right side with cravings. Their influence is like a deluge of fantasies and appetites. Deluge.
Deluge.
Deluge. It's like flood too. Deluge of fantasies and appetites. Such observations clarify what this initial description of the ark involves in requiring that the ark be built out of gopher wood, be divided into compartments, and be tarred outside and in with tar. The meaning is that this second side, the will side, would be protected from the flood, and only the intellectual side would lie open, as depicted in verse 16, by the window, the door, and the lowest, second, the third levels. Maybe these ideas seem unbelievable because they have never occurred to anyone before, and people have not pictured the Lord's word this way. Yet they are completely true. However, they represent the simplest and most general type of secret hidden from human knowledge. If I delved, what is it? If I delved,
Delve.
it's like penetrate. Search. If I delved into the details, nobody would comprehend even a single one. To take up the actual symbolism of the terms, it is clear from the word that gopher wood means intense intense cravings, and the compartments mean our two sides. Gopher wood is a kind of wood loaded with sulfur, similar to fear. Fear. What is it? Fear.
Fir.
It's fir. It's a tree. Like pine tree, fir, and many others in the same kind. Sulfur is what makes this wood symbolic or cravings because sulfur catches fire quite easily. The earliest people used gold, silver, bronze, iron, stone, and wood as metaphors, and similes for human attributes. Gold stood for the most profound heavenly quality in us, bronze for a heavenly quality less profound, and wood for the similes. How to pronounce?
Similes.
Similes, comparison, parable. And wood for the lowliest physical kind, rising out of the first two. Silver, on the other hand, was a metaphor or simile for the deepest possible spiritual quality, iron for a spiritual quality less deep, and stone for the lowest kind. When these substances are mentioned in the word, the same qualities are symbolized by them on an inner plane. In Isaiah, for instance, for bronze I will bring in gold, and for iron I will bring in silver, and for wood bronze, and for stones iron, and I will make peace your property, and justice your taskmaster. Taskmaster. It's like
Taskmaster.
overseer. Taskmaster. This passage deals, deals.
Deals.
It's like case, deals. With the Lord's kingdom, which contains not metals like these, but heavenly and spiritual elements. The presence of symbolism here is also evident from the fact that the verse speaks of peace and justice. The gold, bronze, and wood mentioned in it are interconnected and symbolize heavenly or will-related qualities, as I said. The silver, iron, and stone too are interconnected and symbolize spiritual or intellectual qualities. In Ezekiel, they will prey on your resources. They will plunder resources.
Resources.
Resources. They will plunder your wares, your stones and your wood. Wares. What is it? Wares. It's like goods.
Wares.
Wares. Product. Good. Obviously, the resources and wares mean not those of a worldly type, but those of a heavenly and spiritual type. Likewise, the stones and wood. The stones are the contents of the intellect, and the wood, those of the will. In Habakkuk, a stone in the wall cries out, and a beam of wood answers. The stone stands for the lowest plane of the intellect, and the wood for the lowest plane of the will, which responds whenever a fact is produced from a person's store of sense-based information. In the same author, doomed to one who says to wood, "Wake up," and says, "Rouse yourself," to silent stone. Will it teach anyone anything? Look, it is immobilized in gold and silver, and there is no breath in the middle of it, but Jehovah is in his holy temple. Immobilized.
Immobilized.
Immobilized. It's like paralyzed. Bind. Immobilized. Here too wood stands for desire and stone stands for the lowest level of the intellect, which is why the text connects it with silence and teaching. The absence of breath in the middle of it means that it does not represent anything heavenly or spiritual as the temple with its stone and wood does. The stone and wood are locked up in gold and silver with those who spend no time thinking about the things they represent. In Jeremiah, our water we drink at the cost of silver, our wood comes at a price. The water and silver symbolize the assets of the intellect, the wood, those of the will. In the same author, saying to wood, "You are my father," and to stone, "You gave us birth." The wood stands for desire in the will from which such people trace their conception, and the stone for facts learned through the senses from which they have their birth. Many passages in the prophets talk of serving wood and stone, where these refer to sculptures of wood and stone. The meaning is that people were slaves to their desires and fantasies. Another expression refers to engaging in adultery with wood and stone, as in Jeremiah 3:9 in Hosea. The people ask questions of their wood and their wand. What is wand?
Wand.
Wand. It's like stick. Magic wand. Rod. And the word shows then the answer, because the spirit of Hodom has led them astray. This stands for looking to a wooden idol, or in other words, to their appetites for answers. In Isaiah, from yesterday a Topheth, Topheth, Topheth. What is it?
Topheth.
I don't know. Maybe we can see picture. Topheth has been prepared. Topheth. What is this? I don't know. Maybe any idol. Maybe I don't know. Topheth has been prepared. Its fire is fire. What is it? Fire. Yeah. Fire. It's like funeral pyre.
Pyre.
Pyre. Funeral pyre.
Funeral pyre.
Funeral pyre. Is fire and much wood. Jehovah's breath is like a river of burning sulfur. The fire, sulfur, and wood stands for filthy desires. Mm-hmm. How much is it? Maybe someone wants to read from this, because I was reading alone. Maybe.
I read if you're tired.
Yeah. It was so big to read.
All right, I read. Wood in general symbolizes what exists on the lowest plane of the wheel. Costly woods, such as cedar and so on, symbolize the good things there. The cedar wood in the temple has such a meaning, as does the cedar wood used to cure leprosy, and the wood thrown into the bitter water at Mara, making it sweet. These passages this passage will be explained in their places by the Lord's dying mercy.
Divine.
Divine mercy, sorry.
Mhm.
Wood that was not valuable, however, and that was made into idols or used for a funeral pyre or some similar purpose symbolizes cravings. The gopher wood in the current verse was of this type because of the sulfur in Isaiah. For instance, a day of vengeance for Jehovah. Uh, Signs, rivers will turn into pitch, and its dirt into sulfur, and its land will become burning pitch. Pitch stands for horrendous delusions, sulfur for filthy desires. The symbolism of the compartments as a person's two sides, that of, of will and that of intellect, is established by previous statements. There is a clear distinction between the two sides will,
Mhm.
called will and intellect, and the result, as noted, is the division of the human brain into two parts, referred to as how should I
Hem- Hemispheres. It's like it's
hemispheres.
like yeah, it's like
Hemisrays.
hemispheres. Yeah, hemisphere,
Hemisrays.
hemisphere, like hemisphere.
Hemispheres ang sabi niya. Ito
Maybe I think it's like
in
hemispheres. Maybe
English.
it's like it's about brain. Brain has two hemispheres.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Hemisphere.
Yeah, hemisphere. Yeah.
Hemisphere. All right.
Mhm.
Two as hemispheres. Intellectual affairs belong to the left hemisphere and volitional ones to the right. This is the broadest division. Both will and intellect are further divided into parts without number. The concerns of our intellect and the concerns of our will have so many categories that even the general ones could never be labeled or listed, still less the specific ones. The person is like a kind of miniature heaven that
Miniature.
correspond miniature
I think it's miniature. Miniature.
miniature
Miniature.
Miniature. Miniature. Miniature.
miniature
Miniature.
Mhm. Miniature.
miniature heaven that corresponds to the world of spirits in heaven, where the Lord draws distinctions among all gene, gen, genera
Genera.
genera
Genera and species. Genera, it's like biological stuff.
Genera.
Sort, type of, for example, type of dogs.
genera genera and species of intellectual and volitional affairs. He divides them up and organizes them so perfectly that even the smallest has its own distinct identity. More on this below. By the Lord's divine mercy. The distinct groupings in heaven are called communities. In the Word, they are called dwelling places. And in John 14:2, the Lord calls them places to live. Here they are called compartments, since they were a feature of the ark, which symbolizes a person who is part of the church. The symbolism of tearing it inside and out with tar as being preserved from a flood of desire can be seen from what was said above. The people of this church first needed to reform the functioning of their intellect and so were preserved from a flood of desire, which would destroy all the work of reformation. The original Hebrew text does not actually say tar with tar, but uses a term that refers to protection. The term comes from one for atone or appease, and therefore involve
A tone. It's like annoying. Atone. No,
Atone.
atone. It's like redeem.
Mhm,
Compensate. Atone. And appease.
mhm,
It's about peace.
no,
Yeah.
Appease.
A peace like
calm,
calm. It's
calm.
about peace. Satisfy. Comfort maybe. A peace and therefore
Involve similar ideas. Atonement or appeasement of the Lord is protection from a flood of evil. Okay.
Mhm. uh, I think it's maybe we can read section by section because I think it's, if it is big, maybe section. Okay. I
Okay,
will read
just let
next
me
section.
know. Okay.
Mhm. The symbolism assigned here. Genesis 6:15, and this is
Yes.
how you. Mhm. And this is how you must make it: 300 cubits for the length of the ark, 50 cubits for its width, width. How to pronounce width?
Width.
Yeah, width. 50 cubits for its width, and 30 cubits for its height. The numbers here, as before, symbolize the remaining traces and their scarcity. Scarcity.
Scarcity.
Scarcity like small number in this sense, I think. Their scarcity. The length is their holiness, the width their truth, and the height their goodness. The symbolism assigned here must necessarily seem bizarre. What is this? Bizarre.
Bizarre.
Bizarre. It's like strange, weird, unusual, bizarre, and far-fetched. Far-fetched to any reader.
Far-fetched.
Far-fetched. Far-fetched. It's like can't explain. Maybe in dictionary you can see synonyms. Far-fetched. Far-fetched. Improbable. Questionable. Unlikely. Unlikely. Okay. Far-fetched to any reader. It must be hard to accept. For instance, the 350 and 30 symbolize the remaining traces and how few they were. The same for the symbolism of length, width, and height as holiness, truth, and goodness. But in the first place, see the statements and proofs concerning numbers above at verse 3 of this chapter, which show that 120 there symbolizes remaining traces of faith. In the second place, anyone can achieve clarity on this point too who considers what people intend on the inner meaning as good spirits and angels are. Look beyond everything tied to the earth, the body, and the world alone. Accordingly, they look beyond everything connected with numbers and measurement measurement, and yet the Lord gives them a full perception of the word's message, even though they are completely detached from such things. This being true, those details obviously must involve heavenly and spiritual concerns so remote from the literal meaning that we cannot even see they are meant. All heavenly and spiritual matters are like this, without exception. Now you can see how insane it is to try to inquire into faith through the use of empirical data and factual knowledge, and to believe nothing until this method allows you to grasp it. Empirical. It's like knowledge, empirical knowledge, maybe, yeah.
Empirical.
Practical. Inquire. To try to inquire.
Inquire.
Inquire, like ask question. Maybe someone wants to read next?
Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay. You read. 648, right?
Mm-hmm.
The heavenly and spiritual symbolism of numbers and dimensions in the word is plainly indicated by the taking of the measurements of the New Jerusalem and the New Temple as recorded by John and Ezekiel. Anyone can see that the New Jerusalem and the New Temple symbolize the Lord's kingdom in the heavens and on earth. Clearly, that kingdom cannot be physically measured, and yet numerical dimensions of length, width, and height are specified. From this, anyone can reach the conclusions that the numbers and measures remnants hold a sacred meaning.
Measurements.
Measurements. Remnants hold a sacred meaning. In John, for example, a reed like a staff was given to me, and the angel stood nearby. He told me, "Get up and measure God's temple and the altar and those worshipping in it." And regarding the New Jerusalem, the wall of the heavenly Jerusalem was big and high, having 12 gates, and on the gates 12 angels and names written, which are those of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east were 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south gates, on the west 3 gates, and the wall of the city had 12 foundations. And on them the 12 names of the Lamb's apostles. The Lamb's apostles,
Apostle.
sorry, apostle.
No, it's without T.
Yeah.
It's without T.
Apostles.
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 Mm-hmm. You can see
Apostles.
apostles. T is
Apostle.
not reading here. Apostle.
Apostles.
Apostles.
All right, got it.
Apostles. It's like disciples, messengers,
Mhm.
apostles.
Lamb's apostles. The one who was talking to me had a golden reed for measuring the city and its gates and its wall. The city lies square, and its length is as great as its width. So he measured the city with the reed at 12,000, how's it, stadia?
Yeah, I think it's Stadia.
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 It's like about measure.
Its length and width and height were equal. He he measured its wall at 144 cubits, which is the measure of a human, that is, of an angel. The number 12 turns up repeatedly in this passage. It is a sacred number because it symbolizes the holy things of faith, as was mentioned above at verse 3 of the present chapter. The same thing will be demonstrated below at chapter 29 and 30 of Genesis. With the Lord's divine mercy, this is why it adds that the measure is the measure of a human, that is, of an angel. The meaning is similar for the new temple and the new Jerusalem spoken of in Ezekiel, where again they are described by their measurements. See Ezekiel, 40 something. Zechariah 2:1-2. In these places too, the numbers have no meaning by themselves. The only meaning is the one abstracted from the numbers, which is that of something holy and either heavenly or spiritual. This holds true for all the dimensions of the ark in Exodus 25:10, as well, and those of the appeasement cover, golden table, dwelling place, and altar in Exodus. Likewise, for all the figures and dimensions connected with the temple in 1 King 6:2-3, and for many others.
Mhm.
Here, sure, you want to
Maybe
continue?
maybe someone wants to continue because I think it's maybe like big verse to read. Okay, maybe I will read 2 or 3 sections maybe, and you can continue after me. Okay. Mhm. Here, though, the numbers representing the measurements of the ark simply symbolize the remnant present in the people of this church when they were being reformed, and the remnant's mega, mega size,
Meager.
mega size, mega size. Mega is like little, mega size. No, it's not working. Maybe dictionary. Mega size. Lacking, having little flesh. Mhm. Lacking desirable qualities such as richness or strength. Leading a meager life. Okay. Meager size. This is established by the predominance of the number 5 in those figures, 5 symbolizing some or a little in the word. An example from Isaiah. Gleaning, gleanings, gleanings,
Gleanings.
gleanings, gleanings. It's above like this, maybe. Think acquired by gleaning. Gleaning. To gather grain or other produce left by reapers. To gather information or material bit by bit. It's better to memorize. To gather information or material bit by bit. Gleanings will be left in it, like what is shaken off. Gleanings, it's about reapers. To reap bit by bit, like this, will be left in it, like what is shaken off the olive tree, 2, 3 fruits at the crown of the highest branch, 4, 5 in the branches of a productive tree. 2, 3, and 5 stand for a few in the same author. The 1,000 will flee before the reproach of 1. Before the reproach of 5, you will flee until you are left as a standing pole in the head of the mountain. Here again, 5 stands for a few. The minimum, how to pronounce?
Minimum.
Minimum. Mhm. The minimum fine added to any restitution people paid was a fifth part. Fifth. The minimum fine added to any restitution people paid was a fifth part, and the minimum surcharge the surcharge to charge an extra fee. Surcharge. Overstock. To feel or load to excess. The atmosphere was surcharged with war hysteria. Extra fare. Additional tax, cost, or impost. Okay. Surcharge will people redeemed an animal, a house, a field of tithe was also a fifth part. Yeah. The symbolism of the length as the holiness of the remnant of the width as its truth and of the height as its goodness expressed in numbers is not so easy to prove by the word because the meanings of each relate to the object or entity being described. Length, for example, when ascribed to time, symbolizes what lasts to eternity, as in the phrase length of days. But when ascribed to distance, length symbolizes something holy, and this meaning follows from the former. The case with width and height is similar. All earthly things have three dimensions, but the same dimensions, it's like the same thing.
Dimensions.
Dimensions. The same dimensions cannot be applied to heavenly and spiritual things. When applied to something heavenly or spiritual in abstraction from the dimensions, they mean more perfection or less, and also the nature of amount of the thing. So in the present verse, the measurements imply the nature. They were traces and amount. There were only a few. Next verse, on street. Who can read?
Okay, I read.
Go ahead.
Genesis 6:16. You must make a window for the ark and complete it to a cubit above. And you must place a door for the ark in its side. Lowest, second level, and third level compartments. You must make it in it. The window that was to be completed to a cubit above symbolizes the ability to understand. The door on the side symbolizes hearing the message. The lowest, second level, and third level compartments symbolize matters of fact, reason, and understanding. The symbolism of the window as the ability to understand and of the door as hearing the message and the resulting them of this verse as a person's intellectual side.
Resulting, maybe it's not them. Maybe theme.
Resulting theme.
Let's see. Yeah, it's
Resulting.
like theme.
All
Yeah,
right.
Theme.
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 Oh, yeah.
Like topic. Topic.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Theme.
hmm Musical theme.
Mhm.
Thematic theme.
All right. Yeah. Resulting theme of this first as a person's intellectual side are indicated by what was said above. To be
Oh,
specific, above. Um, to be specific,
yeah. I mean, theme is about like mm, the soldier's creed. Like this. I am like I am a member of a team. To be a member of a team. Like team. No, no theme.
no.
No, it's like team. Yeah, but team is like a different word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I forgot this. Like team
Theme.
and team. It's like closer with team, but not team,
Theme.
but theme. Team and like to be a member of a team. Yeah,
Theme.
I mixed this with these words: team
Theme.
and theme.
Theme.
Theme and team.
Okay.
Okay.
To
Go on.
specific, to be specific, the intellect was said to be the means of reformation for the people of that church. Nowadays, people have two kinds of life. One belonging to the will and the other to the intellect. This become two kinds of life when will is absent and desire takes its place. The second, intellectual half is the part then capable of reforming. When the intellect has been reformed, we are able to receive a new will through it, allowing the two. That is charity and faith to continue as a single force in our lives. Since at this point, people were such that they had no will, but mere desire instead. The volitional side was closed off, as noted as verse 40, and the other, intellectual side opened up, as described in the current verse. Here is what happens during Reformation, a process accomplished through conflict and trials. Evil spirits attach themselves to us, and they call up the fact we have heard, the ideas that seem rational to us and nothing else. Their activity wards off any spirit who would arouse, arouse our desires. There are, you see, two kinds of evil spirit: those who act on our rationalizations and those who act on our cravings. Those who stir up our rationalizations call forth all our misconceptions. They try
This word. What is this?
activity words.
Wards.
Words. Words. It's like chamber. Chamber.
Chamber.
Chamber. Chamber, like room. Their activity words, but this is the verb. It's not noun. Okay, let's see verb. Yeah, it's like reflect. Reflect. Like their activity reflects of any spirit who would arouse our desires.
Okay. To persuade us that falsity is truth. And more than that, they even turn our true ideas into false ones. These falsities we must combat when we are going through times of trial. Although it is the Lord working through the angels connected to us who actually fights against them. After these battles have sifted sifted
Mhm.
out
Sifted. What is this sifted?
Sifted.
Sifted.
sifted
Sifted.
Sifted is like it's about grain, like to sit, to
elevate
analyze. Mm, Sifted like so filter. Filter.
filter
Filter.
sort.
hmm
Filter.
Like it's about grain to filter
Mhm,
grain, like sifted grain, sifted
mhm.
out.
Okay. After these battles have sifted out the falsities and apparently rid us of them, we are ready to accept the truth thought by faith, as long as falsity governs us. Of course, we are completely unable to accept religious truth because the false premises we have adopted stand in the way. Once prepared in this way to accept religious truth, we can, for the first time, to be sown. Is it sown?
Yeah, sown is like to spread seeds, like grain in the ground. Sown, yeah, planted,
Sown.
Oh yeah.
planted seed. For example, a farmer is planting in his field, like is sowing and planting.
Okay. To be sown with heavenly seed. The seed of charity. The seed of charity can never be sown in ground controlled by falsities, but only where truth rules. That is how the reformation or rebirth of a spiritual person takes place. The same process took place among the people of the church described here. The church called Noah. That is why the current verse discusses the ark's window and door in its lowest, second level, and third level compartments or decks. All these things relate to our spiritual or intellectual self. The above process, then, as churches today know, is to gain faith through hearing, but faith is decidedly not a knowledge of faith's tenets, a knowledge of what should be believed. Such knowledge is mere book learning. Faith is acknowledgement. What is more acknowledgement is impossible to anyone who lacks the most important element of faith, which is charity. That is love for others and mercy. Where charity exists, acknowledgement exists, which is to say, faith exists. Anyone who imagines otherwise is as far from understanding what faith is as the earth is from heaven. When charity, the goodness belonging to faith, is present, acknowledgement, the truth belonging to faith, is present. Consequently, the purpose of our rebirth through matters of fact, reason, and understanding is to prepare the soil of our minds to receive charity. Charity, or rather the living out of charity, then forms the basis of thought and action. At that point, we are reformed or reborn, and not before. The symbolism of the window to be completed to a cubit above, as the ability to understand is visible to anyone from the statements just made. Further, clarity comes from considering that if the subject is the construction of the ark, and if the ark If the ark symbolizes a person in the church, the ability to understand cannot be compared to anything but a window above. In other places, to the word calls human intellect. In other words, our inner sight, a window. Whether that intellect engage in reason or merely rationalizes. In Isaiah, for example, afflicted one,
Hmm. Afflicted.
afflicted,
It's like suffering,
mhm,
broken,
afflicted,
disappointed, affected. Grief, afflicted one. Tossed.
tossed by whirlwind, disconsolate, disconsolate. I will use rubies for your sons, windows, and make
Garnets.
your gates of garnets and your whole border of desirable stones. The word used here for windows is suns because of the light that windows let in or transmit. The suns or windows are ideas in the intellect, ones that spring from charity.
Mm. Disconsolate.
disconsolate,
Disconsolate. Disconsolate. Disconsolate is like sorrowful, unhappy, disappointed, like unhappy. Disconsolate. Garnets. Gates of garnets.
garnets,
Ah, like pomegranate. Garnets. hmm Spring from charity.
Which is why they are described as rupees. The gates are rational concept from the same source. The border is organized knowledge and sensory evidence. All of these items have to do with the Lord's church. All the windows in the temple at Jerusalem represented the same thing. The ones at the top represented matters of understanding. Those in the middle represented matters of reason, while those on bottom represented matters of fact, sense, impressions. The annex being three-storied, see the windows
What is
of
annex?
onyx, the annex
annex,
Like a appendix, addition. Annex.
edition. It's say.
annex,
Like a
The,
touch. In three storied, like three stories. No,
three-storied,
three storied. It's like house with three
with three
floors.
level. Oh yeah, three floors.
Mhm.
Okay.
Three storied.
Okay, the window of the temple in the Jerusalem described by Ezekiel have a similar representation. In Jeremiah, that climbed through our windows. It came into our places. Oh yeah, palaces to cut off the toddler in the street, the youths in the avenues. This is referring to windows of the middle story, which are matters of reason, and it says that these are obliterated. The toddler in the street is newborn truth. As windows symbolize truth gained through the intellect and reason, they also symbolize falsity, resulting from the misuse of reason. An example from the same author: doom to those who build their house on what is not justice, and their upper rooms on what is not judgment, who say, I will build I will build myself a house of large dimensions, and upper rooms that are spacious and cut windows out for themselves, and it is paneled in cedar, painting it with Vermilion.
What is it? Vermilion. Vermilion.
Vermilion.
It's like color, scarlet color.
Okay.
Vermilion.
Scarlet.
It's like red color.
Scarlet.
Scarlet, red, crimson, purple.
The windows stand for falsities adopted as premises in
Zephaniah.
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 Oh yeah. In Zephaniah, packs of animals will lie down in its midst. Every wild animals of that nation, both the spoonbill and the what is this? Kipot?
Kippered.
Keypad. This word has no translation. Maybe picture. Keypad. It's like Hebrew word, maybe. Keyboard. Maybe we can see picture. No, it doesn't have picture. No, it's like map. Sorry. Picture here. Keyboard. It's Hebrew. No, we cannot find it.
How does it pronounce?
Kippered.
Keypad like this. Keypad.
Kipot.
I don't know because it's like it's from Bible and the Zephaniah. It's like Keypad because this book of Swedenborg uses modern language, but this word is maybe like Hebrew word. I don't know. Maybe in dictionary we can see Keypad.
All right.
No,
No.
word not found.
Oh yeah, that's my assignment
And
for today.
what is spoonbill? Spoonbill. Spoon. It's like spoon. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to eat.
It's like 2 word.
Spoonbill.
Maybe it's like a bird. Maybe we can see what is this in web search. Spoonbill.
Both says
Both. Yeah, it's a bird. You see, it's like it's spoonbill, like big bird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it.
This bird likes to eat frogs like this, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and fish. Spoonbill. Okay. Maybe it's about bird too. Both the spoonbill and the geepod.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think
it's
so.
about birds.
I think
Maybe
it's
yeah.
an animal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll spend the night
Pax.
among its pomegranate. Pomegranate.
Pax.
Pax.
Group?
I
No.
don't know. Maybe
It's like a
dictionary.
group of
Pax?
animal.
Maybe.
Like the wolf packs. Remember? Wolf packs. A group like that.
Yeah, a number of individual components. A group of group.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Spoonbill and
will
the teapot will spend the night among its how should I say it? Pomegranate.
Pomegranate. It's a fruit.
Pomegranate.
Pomegranates.
Pomegranate.
Do you know this fruit? How it looks?
Pomegranates.
Pomegranates. Pomegranates. A voice will sing in the window. Devastation is at the threshold. This concerns Assyria and Nineveh. Assyria
Hmm.
symbolizing the intellect here, one that has been devastated. A voice singing in the window stands for misguided logic based on illusions.
Misguided. It's about guidance, but misguided. Mm. It's like to go astray like this.
Led or prompted by wrong or inappropriate methods or ideas.
She is being getting a lot of bad advice from misguided friends.
Mhm.
Misguided, misguided. Okay. Logic based on illusions.
By now, it is appa- apparent that the door on the side symbolizes hearing the message, and there is no need to bring in similar passage from the word by
Passages.
passage
Yeah,
I-
passages.
passages from the word by way of confirmation. After all, the relationship between the ear and the internal sense organs is like that between the door on the side and the window above. And to say the same thing another way, it is like the relationship between hearing, which is the ear's function, and intellectual activity, which is a function of the internal senses. The symbolism of the lowest, second level, and third level compartments as matters of fact, reason, and understanding also follows. These are three levels to the content of the human intellect. The lowest has to do with factual knowledge, and middle with reason, and the highest with the understanding. These levels are so clearly distinguished from each other that they never blur. But
What is blur?
blur, it's like blur, like sensor,
I don't know. Translator is not working today, but maybe blur. In dictionary, we can see as
smear or
near.
stain that
Mhm.
obscures something vaguely
Mm,
perceive,
Maybe maybe definition. Yeah,
blemish, smearing,
blemish smearing.
make dim. Yeah, it's like to make dim. It's like a little not clear. It's like that,
Mm.
not totally
Mm-hmm.
clear.
Mm-hmm. Synonyms like mist, overcast,
Blacken.
or cloud. Shadow. Shadow. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like bright. Mhm.
Okay. But people are unaware of the distinction because they place life exclusively in what they can sense and learn about. Since they fixate on that
Mhm.
level, they cannot see even that their ability to reason is different from their knowledge. Still less that their ability to understand is different from it. The reality is that the Lord exerts an infly
Influence.
sorry, influence, sorry. Influence on our ration.
Mhm. It doesn't. It doesn't work. Influence the power or capacity of causing and
Causing an
effects.
effect.
Interact.
Yeah.
It's like perception influence.
hmm On our rational thing.
Exerts. I forgot this word. Exerts.
Exerts, like
To put forth. Rational thinking.
thinking through the things we truly understand and on the data in our memory through our rational thinking. giving life to the senses of sight and hearing. This is true in flux. This is the true connection between the soul and the body. Life could never exist in us if it did not flow from the Lord into the things we truly understand, and through this into the content of our rational mind, and through this into the facts stored in our memory. Or to be more accurate, it first has to flow into the content of our will, and through this into the things we understand, and so on. Even though we are enmeshed in falsity and evil, the Lord's life still enters in through the things we will not understand. But our rational mind absorbs those influences according to its form. This makes it possible for us to reason about, to reflect on, and to understand what is true and good. But more on this subject below, with the Lord's divine mercy, and also something on the way life operates in animals. These three levels, understanding, reason, and knowledge, which are described in a general way as a person's intellectual possessions, are also symbolized by the windows of the three-floor annex to the temple at Jerusalem. As noted, they were symbolized earlier as well by the rivers going out from the Garden of Eden, which was in the east. In that passage, the east symbolizes the Lord, Eden symbolizes love in the will, the garden symbolizes the intelligence that grows out of it, and the river symbolizes wisdom, reason, and knowledge. See what was said about these things earlier at Genesis.
Hmm. Thank you very much. And I think this reading is over today.
Yeah, I feel tired.
It was so big. Yeah.
It's a bit long for every verses today. So yeah,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah,
Which,
and see you. See you later.
oh yeah.
Goodbye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Mhm.